my name's Bart and welcome back to another Coach Dave Academy lap guide video. Today we're back in the FIA4 car and we're at the Nurburgring GP circuit. Let's get to the hot lap. Alright, let's go down the main straight at Nurburgring GP layout. One of my favourite tracks, both in real life and the sim, so should be an interesting one. First corner, quite a tricky corner. Downhill hairpin with a big drop through the middle of it. So first thing I'm going to do is just make sure we're on the white line here, bring the car over in this direction, and it's a bit like, I mentioned this if you saw the Spa video for the bus stop braking as well. Rather than braking parallel to the white line and then turning onto the entry curb, what I'm going to do is I'm going to brake in line with where I kind of want to turn in from. So I want to turn in from here on the entry curb. I'm just going to try and brake in a straight line. You can see I'm just about overlapping here, getting on the brakes. Again, heavy braking in a straight line. Down to second gear. Kind of third gear as we come up the curb here. Down to second gear. Do not be late at this corner. If you go... You obviously want to push the braking late, but you don't want to miss the apex here. So if you feel like you cannot make the apex, you need to start bringing the braking back earlier. Really important, especially on iRacing, to make the inside curb here. As you can see, just get to that inside white line, shorten distance, and also get in this groove, this compression. This is where the grip is. Otherwise, it'll really hurt your exit and just the extra distance you're taking as well. You can see I'm quite light on the brake at this point. The corner is because it's very easy to lock up and understeer wide. So I just want to roll the speed through the apex. Get on throttle once you get into that compression, a bit like somewhere like the last corner at Rebel Ring. Onto the throttle. You should be forced out here so your left tires go over the white line. As long as you have half your car this side of the white line, you will not get off track. You can see this is pretty much the absolute... You can go a little bit more than this, but it's pretty much the limit of what is legal in iRacing. So, yeah, really important to try and maximize here. And the light car like this, we can go all the way from there, back to the right-hand side of the track, all the way back to the white line here. And in third gear, there should just be a part lift for turn 2. Use the inside curb, quite grippy on the sim. And then just let the car run out to the edge of the track here. So the track limit here is, as long as you have half your car this side of the red and white curve, you will be legal. I don't actually use all the track limit. You can see that I could here, because once you start putting the floor of the car and where the plank is, over this lip of the curb, even though it doesn't look too tall. And honestly, I've never felt that it was an issue in any other car, but in this car, it does actually bottom out a bit but more specifically on the bumps later on this curbing. And so when you try and turn and brake into the turn 3, if you go over the curb, it makes it very inconsistent. You'll even see it in a sec a little bit. But yeah, the reason why I'm not using a bit more curbing here is just because you kind of get stuck on a bump and can't turn into this next left-hander. So I'd recommend just running out, not using all the track limits there, and just running. So you can see I've got my left tires on the white line here. So that's the bump there that I mentioned. You can hear it; it's quite bad. If you're over the curb, it unsettles the car a lot, and the entry makes it very inconsistent. Possible to make the apex very inconsistent. So that's why I try to limit how much track we use there. So down to third gear now. Quite a tricky corner, this turn 3-4 section. We want to prioritize our exit, okay? I feel like in a lot of cars, you would slow the car down. Generally, you have the car really slowed down and pointing in this direction in a GT car or anything heavier or with more power. And everything's about, can I make this right-hander flat or as near to flat as possible? It's just, this exit is everything. So that's generally the focus. In this car, because we're low-powered and we have quite a bit of grip because we're quite lightweight, we can actually push the left-hander quite a bit. You can see we're forced all the way out here. Be like somewhere like Lacombe. Again, I mentioned Suzuka with the section before Dunlop. You can actually push the entry of the corner before more because it's not as hard for us to take the next bit flat out. So this all starts with this left-hander here, turn 3. You want to make the apex here. It's all about roll speed, I find, okay? So we don't brake too late, because if you brake late, you'll just never get the car turned in. Kind of a medium brake. You got to quickly bleed out here. Super, super, super easy to lock up. Probably the easiest corner on the track. As soon as you put some steering lock on in this car, it just wants to lock the front straight away. So please keep that in mind. Quickly bleed out of the brakes. Get the car over this curbing. Really flat curbing. Don't worry about it. As long as you have, once again, half your car over this the lip of the red and white here, you will be legal. So this is just about legal. You can see very early on throttle here. A lot of cars, as I said before, you probably still keep on the left-hand side of the curbing here. But in this car, we can get on the throttle quite early, force the car out here to mid-track. You've got these kind of rubber lines to work out where the lanes are, kind of in line with the grooves on the track here. Point towards the roller coaster. Then you use the curbing here. The car will bottom a bit, but it really helps rotate and open up the exit. And I think, once again, half the car on this side of the edge of the curbing, and we're all good in terms of off tracks. So I'm able to keep it flat, and just as you go over the top, try and release the steering a little bit. And then able to keep it flat out and use all the track limits on the exit here. So this is quite a weird track limit to explain to people. To be honest, in some ways, I don't fully understand it. It takes a lot of practice, because in real life, there is no track limits here as long as you get back before a bollard. Generally up here, it's quite a grippy bit of runoff. But the main things here in terms of track limits, I can tell you, is if you have your left tires, or if you have half the car over this white line, or I think your left tires in general over this white line, then you can get done for track limits. So make sure you bring it back before this bit of green AstroTurf here. That's the first thing. And the second thing is you don't want to exit out too early. So if you run off the track, I think, again, it's on this AstroTurf. If you run like your right tires out into this AstroTurf and you go out here somewhere, you will definitely get off track. So the limit is pretty much just running all four wheels off the track as you've reached the end of that bit of AstroTurf there and onto this green painted bit of tarmac. Kind of an odd track limit, I know, to explain, but it just takes time, because some people think you can't use it because every time they go over the white line they get a track limit, but no, it's just where you run wide and can you bring it back in time. So really important to know that, just to use all the track limits here. You can use all this kind of escape road section. Getting back to the right hand side now, as we are on the full GP layout, preparing for the downhill left, soft brake, down to fourth gear. You can see I delay the gear shift quite a bit. I think that helps a lot here. Just if you downshift a bit early, you kind of slow the car down too early in the corner. And we also wanted to kind of delay the rotation because it's quite a long corner as well. Get into the camber here, as close to the inside white line as possible without hitting the inside curb. Should be able to pick up the throttle at some point. And it's how much speed can I carry. You really want to push that left, yeah? You want to push that left as much as possible while still being able to prepare the right-hander enough for the exit. And it's always a balance, this section. Some people, you'll see different lines, and I've seen everything work. It depends on the car and the setup and the driver, right? I've seen some people who go quite tight, go all the way to the right-hand side of the track to the white line and then try and bring it back as much as possible. I know some people who push the left as much as possible while still making it back to the right-hand line on the left-hand side of the track for this entry. So it's a balance, right? For me, it's more about the balance. So here, I in terms of the car balance, right? So I can feel now, okay, as much speed as possible. I know I can kind of get it back mostly towards the left-hand side, and the car's rotating enough for me here. But when I was getting it tighter to the inside, I found that in order to get the car turned, I was having too much oversteer. So I found I needed to go a bit wider, but I didn't need to go all the way to the white line on the edge of the track. And you can kind of also see where the camber dips in. See this bowl here, kind of where it goes downhill. That's why I think you never really need to be fully on the left, certainly when you turn in. And maybe at this point you can be, but I feel like you want to be kind of this point of the track turning in that way rather than over here somewhere. So roll into the camber, really soft, short brake. As you can see, bang, just a little kind of jab of the brake pedal down to third gear. Roll into the camber, inside white line, full throttle. You can use all the curving here, but if you run the middle of the car over this lip of the curb where this bit of grating is, you will bottom out and lose a bit of time at the exit. So just try and run so your left tyres are on the higher part of the curb. Now we just keep kind of left-hand side of the track. Please use this entry curve. It's worth quite a bit in terms of widening the track. Once again, a section I've seen a lot of different lines work depending on the car. Try and see what works for you. For me in this car, we've got aero. We can carry quite a lot of minimum speed. Very hard braking. Push the entry a lot, I think, is generally something you always want to do here. Down to third gear, I kind of just try and push the entry as late as I can. How late can I brake? I'll still make it into the camber and making it back to the white line, okay? So instead of going all the way out to the outside and cutting back, it's how late can I kind of push it while still rolling the speed, getting to the white line in the middle of the corner here. In a heavier car, you might try and go a bit wider and cut back because you can't go on throttle as early, but in this car, you can have a very early throttle pickup, you can have a high minimum speed, so you're able to kind of roll into the banking a bit earlier. Use all the curb and left, roll the speed in, quickly come out of the brake. Once again, a bit like turn 3, easy to lock up here. Very aggressive throttle pickup. Similar curb to the previous section. You can use all of it, but you don't really want to. Get over to the right-hand side. You don't really need to use the entry curbing in this car. This should be easily flat, just be smooth on the wheel. Kind of keep the car to the right. You don't need to throw it to the left, it's just extra track, extra distance. They get your wheels on the right-hand side of the white line here. Again, as long as you have half your car on the left, you will be okay in terms of off-track. So if you do use all that entry curbing, you will get an off-track. Quite a soft brake here. You can see, well, hard initially, but not very long brake, I should say. Down to fourth gear. It's all about carrying the minimum speed, carrying as much momentum as possible. You don't want to have to slow the car down, then get back on the throttle again in this short space between this left-hander and the next right-hander. So you want to carry the momentum here. In fourth gear, use that entry curb as much as possible. It'll just help turn the car. You shouldn't be forced out all the way to the white line on the exit. Once again, another section where I've seen a lot of different lines work, and it's all about a compromise. I always think here, how much do you want to push this left to open up the right? Because it's probably the most important exit on the track. So just think in terms of how much speed can I carry through this left-hander while still making it back to the left-hand side of the track for this entry. So you see I make it all the way back to the left here. But yeah, how much speed can I carry through that left while still making it back to this point on the track? Okay, you can see a very soft brake. You can do it with a lift. I certainly did on some laps. I just found that if I just braked a tiny bit in this car, you can see it's like 5%, if even, maybe less brake pressure. That is just to help the car rotate, yeah? So when we brake, obviously the weight goes onto the nose of the car. It gives us more front grip. So for that small point, the corner, when you're doing a little bit of braking, trail braking in this case, the car will rotate better. So we're just trying to be efficient with how we rotate the car. Like I said, I could just lift. I don't need to brake here. And it's less because I'm going too fast. And it's more just it really helps turn the car. And That little bit of rotation allows you to pick up the throttle a little bit earlier, and also kind of reduces the, let's say, the scrub or just the loading you're putting on the left-hand side tires through this long right-hand corner. So I found that it was slightly beneficial for lap time, in my opinion, because you gained more on the exit than you lost in carrying speed through the corner. So just the smallest brush of the brake pedal. Get the car into the white line, Kirby on the inside. Try to go in a bit early. Going in on the early side here, just because of the way the shape of the corner is. Sometimes you think you want to meet the inside later, but the way the camera and stuff is here, just go slightly early. What feels slightly early. Able to pick up throttle here. Once again, similar curving. Just run your left tires up on the higher side of the curb. Now just being smooth on the wheel. Bring the car over to the right-hand side of the track. Preparing the car for the final chicane. This is the tight chicane. Quite tricky in a car like this. You can see it bounces the car up a lot. We can use a lot of the curving here. Braking markers, you have the 150 board, and you have this bit of extra grating on the right-hand side. So you can see I'm braking at about the 80-meter point, let's say 85 meters before the corner. Uphill braking, so you will be able to stop slightly better than you anticipate, let's say. Really heavy braking zone, almost 100% brake pressure maintained here. Down to third gear. Really important here to try and use the curbing. So the rules in terms of the curbing here, my understanding is pretty much you can actually run a bit more than this, because in a GT car, you can run it so pretty much your right-hand side tires are still on this part of the curb, and it can be legal. However, you cannot run any more curb than this in this car. You can see how much this picks up. This is just hitting the tires on the inside curb, the high part of the inside curb. You can run the floor over it in some cars, but this car, I've tried it, it does not work at all. So we're just trying to take as much curb as possible. We're not really worried about an off track here. We're just worried about physically how much curb can the car take. So what I found works is left tires kind of in this. You can see this groove on the inside of the high part of the curb, and having our right tires at the bottom of the curb, the white line here. The key is you don't want the floor touching the high part of the curb, so try and avoid that while allowing your left tires to go over it. Taking this much curb will allow you to carry a lot of entry speed, and that's really where the gain is. So don't go in the same way you've been going you would if you were just going to miss the curb entirely. If you're going to take it like this, it's all about how much more entry speed can you carry. And as a result of being able to carry more entry speed, you shouldn't need to stop as much, which means you should be able to push your braking later. So it's worth quite a bit of time here. So full speed, carry the speed through the corner. It's quite an aggressive hit. That's why we want to try and get some throttle on when you hit the curb, right? So I would recommend you have to be on throttle before you hit this curb. Otherwise, it'll probably upset the car. You can see I'm not on full throttle because that'll probably just wheel spin, but I go about half throttle at this point. That, again, is just to settle the car down because that's putting weight onto the rear, just allows it to be more stable over the curb and gives you more control of the car. So if you kind of get it in that groove in a straight line and you're able to get on throttle, you should be able to get the car over the curbing. You see it lands. I use as much of the curbing here as I can. I wouldn't use any more than this because, again, legally you can, but it'll just upset the car on the exit. This is the maximum of what I would take. I'm just about able to get onto full throttle at this point. Use all the curbing on the exit. If you run onto the AstroTurf, you quite easily get off track here. Don't need to use the entry curve here in this car. Braking down to third gear. Quite a fun corner, this final corner. It's all about how late can you reach the inside white line. You kind of want to delay your turn in. Late braking, down to third gear. Look to meet the white line, basically where this pit wall starts. And just before you reach the inside white line, you should be able to get on throttle. Force the car out to the left-hand side of the track. Smooth on the steering. Keep it on the left-hand side of the track. And that's a lap at Nurburgring. Cool. Okay, so that brings us towards the end of the video now. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. And you can also check out the Coach Dave Academy Discord in the YouTube video description. My name is Bart, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.